Welcome on in, everyone, to another episode of WRAL Triangle and Two. I'm Luis Fernandez. He is not Mark Bergen. He is Graham Hill. Mark is out of town today, so Graham is joining us. Graham, I appreciate you being here. Excited to talk a little Triangle athletics with you today.
Thank you for having me. Second appearance on the Triangle and Two podcast. And it's only fair that I say this for you, Lewis. When I filled in for you with Mark, I said I'm not as handsome as Luis Fernandez. So I have to say I'm not as handsome as Mark Bergen, but happy to be here. Thank you for always relying on me to fill in as the cleanup hitter. And yeah, let's do it. Let's talk some Triangle sports.
All right, perfect. I'll make sure Mark knows that you said that, by the way. Let's just go ahead and get started
I hope he
with
watches.
a little bit broad topic here to get things going. Men's college basketball check-in. And what I mean by this is we are now, this is being recorded on December 18th. So almost to the new year, almost to the actual conference play, not just like the one conference game randomly in December. So all three local ACC teams, Duke, NC State, and UNC, are 7-3 this year. All three have gotten there in different ways, right? NC State has had 3 losses to some solid teams mixed in there. BYU is looking pretty solid this year. Tennessee, obviously, being a top 25 team. And then Ole Miss on the road, big loss there. Not as great for the Wolfpack. UNC lost for the third time coming this weekend against Kentucky. The tight game. But UNC was kind of battling back the entire time. And then Duke has had some ups and downs, losing to Georgia Tech in back-to-back games. So I'll go ahead and leave the floor with you, Graham. What are your main takeaways from what these three teams have so far this year, 10 games into the college basketball season?
Well, first things first, I'll start with NC State just because I was really in depth watching their game on Saturday night. I think they're still trying to figure out their lineup. And what I mean by that, they're still trying to figure out what combinations of players they want to put out on the floor at certain times. To me, outside the starting lineup, it kind of feels like guys off the bench are kind of just thrown together. And again, that could be just because of all the transfers that Kevin Keats brought into his credit. He really utilized the portal prior to the season, but that might just be something that they're still trying to work through, right? They're just trying to figure out who has good chemistry, who has good connection. But I mean, give the Pack credit to only lose by 9 to the 12th ranked team in the country in Tennessee. There was a lot of good that I liked in what I saw in NC State's game on Saturday night. A couple of things that concerned me as far as turnovers and going into some scoring droughts at times. But overall, I think NC State's just still trying to work through all the new players that they have under Kevin Keats and his system. And then for North Carolina, I think they're still waiting for that breakout star outside of Harrison Ingram, of course, Armando Bacot, RJ Davis. You know what you're getting out of those two guys that are returning. But, we're still waiting to see Elliot Cadeau kind of take that jump in his collegiate career. And then, Cormac Ryan, obviously coming into that game against Kentucky, was in a little bit of a scoring drought, and Hubert Davis said that the only thing he could do was just try to shoot his way out of it. Had a good game against Kentucky, but I think North Carolina needs to see him be a little more consistent, especially shooting from the 3, which is kind of what his primary focus is in his role. And then for Duke, we kind of forget it. Duke's just a young team. Kyle Filipowski's a sophomore. Tyrese Proctor should be a freshman this year. And then outside of RJ Roach, there's a lot of guys that are still just trying to get their chops at the collegiate level. And Ryan Young as well, who comes off the bench. But that's kind of my broad perspective that I have on the 3 Triangle teams. But if there's a team that I feel like is playing right now with the most confidence, despite their 2 losses on the road, I think it's got to be Duke, the ACC defending champions of last season in the tournament. And you bring back all those guys, even though they're a young team, it kind of feels like what we saw last year of the Blue Devils, where they were kind of up and down in non-conference play. And then once they got into the later part of conference play, it all started to come together. And then that's what helped them establish their run in the ACC tournament to go on and win it last year.
Let's circle back. Good thoughts all around, Graham. Let's circle back to NC State and just kind of go bit by bit here. Yeah, the Cam Woods and MJ Rice kind of starting to get into the mix a little bit there with what's been going on lately in the NCAA. I think it's going to be interesting to see how those lineups continue to grow. It does still feel like NC State is figuring itself out. I think my main concern for the Wolfpack right now is just that you're looking at a situation where they didn't really have the most difficult out of conference schedule. And so in order to make a push for the NCAA tournament, they're going to need to do really well in the ACC. That's just, and if you're going to spend the first couple months of the season figuring out your lineups, that's great. You need to make sure it translates in ACC play. UNC, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think RJ has been phenomenal. The way he's kind of approached the past few games. He missed I think it was the first in 41 free throw attempts against Kentucky, which is wild. I mean, he's essentially been averaging 27 points a game for the past 4 or 5 games. So, but it's interesting because when I watch UNC, I feel like, and let me know if you see this too. Like, part of me feels like Armando Bacot has kind of regressed a little bit. But when you go back and you look at it statistically, he's essentially having like the exact same year that he had last year. If just, maybe a 0.5 less points per game. I don't know. But I do feel like he's had a couple of games where he's only scored single digits. And in order for UNC to be at its best, I think, you have to have Armando and RJ playing to the highest of their capabilities.
Yeah. A few missed free throws here and there, a couple of rebounds that he's not able to bring in off the boards that we're kind of used to seeing last year. I mean, he was a double-double machine for most of last season and pretty much throughout his collegiate career at North Carolina. But I kind of see what you're saying, but it is strange how, at first eye glance, you kind of see some plays that he makes in Kentucky and go, that's not really Armando Bacot. And then you look at the stat sheet and you're like, I don't really see that much of a difference in what I've seen from him, especially in last season. So I think that's a fair analysis, Armando. But you're exactly right. I think you're getting your best caliber play out of RJ Davis right now, but he can't carry the load all season, especially when they get into conference play. They're going to need to extend their bench a little bit.
Yeah, I think last year you had to go almost to he missed the Virginia game last year, Armando Bacot did, but then you have to go almost to the end of the season before he had like a single-digit performance. And then so far this year, he's averaging like 15 and 11, but you've got, 8 points against Villanova, 9 points against Arkansas, 9 points against Kentucky, including the 6 turnovers against Kentucky. Some of this has been like foul trouble, like all 4 of those games. I believe he had 4 fouls, or all 3 of those games, I think he had 4 fouls. So it's interesting. I do think they kind of need to get into a little bit more rhythm from that perspective and play better defense. And then Duke,
you're absolutely right though about the
Duke
turnovers.
Yeah,
I was just going to say the turnovers. I mean, the way that game ended against Kentucky, ball going off Cormac Ryan when he wasn't even anticipating the pass. I know Hubert Davis was furious over that play in the locker room.
Yeah, I think that's something where it's like that's just the Elliot Cadeau being a freshman. I think that's where that comes from, and I think that's something where you'd see improve and get better. But yeah, it's just tough. You don't even get a shot up. That's really difficult. And then as for Duke, the Blue Devils, I think the best thing for them has been what's been the past couple of weeks, which is like a game a week, essentially. Because I think that Duke obviously has all the talent in the world, but you're right, they are very young, and I think they're still figuring things out. And so we see Duke, I think, really, they're going to have a big test coming up on Wednesday against Baylor, a Baylor team that just lost. So they're obviously going to have a chip on their shoulder. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of take this self-scouting, if you will, over the month of December and turn it into the team that they are. I still think Duke's like, hold on, I'll pull it up right now. I think Duke they're 12 on Ken Palm right now. So, I mean, it's not like they're bad or anything. UNC's 20. I think State is 72, right around there. But it just feel like Duke still has to unlock that next level, especially defensively. But we'll see. We'll see against what happens with the Blue Devils. Any more college basketball thoughts before we move on to NC State and the football team?
I think I just want to touch on that Duke and Baylor game coming up. Of course, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. on ESPN, playing at Madison Square Garden, another neutral site game for the Blue Devils. This is a Baylor team, as you mentioned, that's coming off a loss. Not only are they coming off a loss, they just got ran out of the building against, it was Michigan State.
Yeah.
Correct that. Yeah, they got ran out of the building in their neutral site game. And for Duke, that game was obviously on Saturday, along with when North Carolina, Kentucky played. Duke hasn't played since last Tuesday in that 89-68 win against Hofstra at home in a game that they kind of struggled with early on. So this is a big test for John Shire's squad. And after the UNC Charlotte game, John Shire made the comment of, it's not about playing well consistently, it's about improving over time. I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit there, but I think that's exactly right. I think that's just the mantra of this Blue Devil team. But yeah, Wednesday night against Baylor, coming off the Bears coming off that bad loss, they're wanting to get that taste out of their mouth real quick. It's going to be a litmus. It's going to be a litmus test for John Shire's squad.
Yeah, 100%. Now, want to go ahead and transition to football because as we were getting ready to do the show today, we actually had some news come through, and that was NC State adding another offensive player in the transfer portal. This time, a guy who was just 30, 45 minutes down the road in Jordan Waters, Duke's leading rusher last year. The running back is now heading to NC State, and it's just another one on the long list of transfer portal success stories that State has had so far this year. I think 24/7 Sports right now has them as like the number 5 team in the transfer portal based on rankings and all of that. They've got players like Coastal Carolina's Grayson McCall at quarterback, Jordan Waters, Wesley Grimes from Wake Forest, Justin Jolly, the top tight end in the transfer portal. NC State's cooking something. Graham, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just like Marquise Williams, former North Carolina quarterback, posted on Twitter an hour ago. I'm sending a private investigator to Raleigh, them boys in red cooking. And I'm not saying that as a shot at Marquise Williams. I think Marquise is being brutally honest, and I think it's time for the Triangle, North Carolina fans specifically. How many times have we heard coming to the football season, especially over the past 2 years, where the expectation has been so high, and then little NC State keeps putting themselves in potential for a 10-win season, something that has not happened ever under Dave Doran's tenure. But again, when you look back at how this season went for NC State, after Jordan Waters just lit them up on the scoreboard and that loss to Duke, they were at a crossroads. And Dave Doran pretty much said, this is a 5-game season now. It's up to you. It's up to you guys on how you want to come in here and respond. And they did everything that Dave Doran asked them to. I mean, to win 5 straight and just to absolutely run North Carolina out of your own building on senior night, and then to have all the success. Everybody wants to keep talking about how many guys NC State had entered the transfer portal. I think they were up to 7 at one point. They might have hit double digits by now. I'm not exactly sure. But then look at the caliber of talent they're bringing in. Grayson McCall, Jordan Waters, Wesley Grimes, Justin. I don't want to mess up his name here. Justin Joel.
Jolly.
I'm not 100%. I can't read, but yeah, it's just one of those things where Marquise is right. It might be time to start taking notice of what the boys in red over here in Raleigh are doing, especially under Dave Doran. I mean, he just keeps. Granted, he's in year 12, but I mean, he's just been weathering the storm. He's just building something over there, and it's starting to show. I mean, everybody over at NC State talks about the culture, and a lot of people think that's just cliche, but no, Dave Doran's really building something that his current players are buying into, and you saw it this season. Then he's building something that other players from other teams are seeing. Point blank, Jordan Waters, an ACC opponent, they're seeing what NC State's doing, and they want to come over here and join them. And you can't blame Jordan Waters for wanting to do this with Mike Elko leaving, Riley Leonard leaving, Manny Diaz coming in. We don't know how that's going to look underneath Diaz in this new era of Duke football. But yeah, I mean, you can't really fault a lot of these guys that are in the portal for wanting to come over here and get their footing back underneath them or continue their successful college career under Dave Doran and the Wolfpack.
Yeah, it's an interesting time of the year when Marquise Williams is over here complimenting NC State. I think that it's what's the past few years, it feels like State and UNC have kind of traded back and forth like preseason hype, right? Yeah. You had the Devin Leary, NC State preseason top 10, season. Sam Howell in the mix, but they lost to Virginia Tech in the first game of the season. Obviously, the hype that came around Drake May and UNC this year. So it feels like there's just kind of this constant trading back and forth. And I think that this NC State team is going to have a lot of expectation. Yeah, they're gonna have a lot of expectations this year, and I think rightly so. You saw the way they've ended the season; they still have a very good chance. I think they should be. I don't know. I haven't seen the line recently, but I think State has a very good chance to beat Kansas State in their bowl game, the Pop Tarts Bowl, coming up here, and get that 10-win mark for the second time in program history. So I'm curious to see. For me, it's defensively. Tony Gibson's fantastic. NC State has great talent on the defensive end. I'm almost never worried about NC State defensively. So it's how does this offensive talent, how does it come together on the offensive side? Are we going to see, Robert and I really build out the offense that he wants? Are we going to see, it kind of take that next step? Casey Concepcion coming back. Are they going to build up that offensive line? How does Grayson McCall transition from Coastal to NC State? There's a lot of questions, but I think that the ceiling is quite high for NC State. We'll be really curious to see how that continues to grow going into next year. Anything about NC State before we go to the Carolina Panthers?
I just, again, are we going to see the kind of quarterback play that we saw out of Grayson McCall and the numbers that he put up, at Coastal Carolina? A lot of people like to ride the Sun Belt a little bit and say that, they shouldn't be taking that serious as a conference. It's still a Power 5 conference. And, think about how good App State's been in seasons past. I mean, that's a competitive conference, and even teams like Marshall as well. So, for Grayson McCall to put up the numbers that he did in the Sun Belt Conference, it speaks volume. And then Justin Jolly, I had to redeem myself. I mean, a tight end of his caliber, that's something that I feel like NC State's kind of been missing in the offense a little bit over the past couple of seasons. So that'll be a good addition. And then, Jordan Waters coming in at running back, again, something that wasn't really used too much. I mean, Jordan Houston obviously utilizing his red shirt in the beginning of the season. And then Michael Allen did the best he could to carry the load, but it wasn't anything like we've seen in past seasons, like a Naeem Hines type caliber. We've seen that in Jordan Waters. So again, NC State's just continuing to chop away at the stone, build on the foundation that they keep setting at the end of each season. And, let's see. Can NC State do what they haven't been able? Can NC State get out of their own way and get a 10-win season for only second time in program history, like you said?
If in my mind, if someone says the Sun Belt isn't good, they don't know ball. But that's just me.
Yeah, they're a casual. They're a casual college football fan.
They're casual. Let's go ahead and go to a team that, doubled its win total. How many times do you get to say that? The Carolina Panthers picking up win number 2 in the rain against the Atlanta Falcons. Congratulations to the Carolina Panthers for
it's a Christmas miracle.
A Christmas miracle. I am of the feeling. So I think there's a lot of part of the reason there's so much negativity around the Panthers right now. Obviously losing, but it's just that there's not anything to like when you're bad. Oh, you get to try and get that number 1 pick, right? They obviously can't do that because of the trade with the Bears. So I just feel like there's not a whole lot of like hope about what the future is like. So I think what the Panthers ultimately need to do is embrace the petty for the remainder of the season, right?
Yeah.
Like big old, hey, Chicago, you want this number 1 pick? Sorry, we're going to win a couple of games and get in a tie for the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick or whatever it might be and throw you off. You think we're actually bad? Actually, we're going to try and win a couple of games here and spoil a few seasons. Like, I think that ultimately the Panthers need to embrace this kind of pettiness for a team that's really not that good, but has the opportunity to at least end the season on a higher note. Just in my mind, if I just get out of the number 1 spot, I know it's not going to matter. What's the difference between 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 or 1 and 4? But ultimately, just be a little petty and try and get out of the number 1 spot if you can. Good on the Panthers.
Yeah, first of all, these Panthers are never going to lose 7 in a row. But they start off the game 0-6, or they start off the season 0-6. Then they beat the Houston Texans. And then, 6 games later, here we are once again, where a chance they could lose 7 in a row. Oh, look at that. They beat the Atlanta Falcons 9-7 in a barn burner. Which, by the way, can we just talk about how the weather conditions of the game yesterday were just so fitting for what fans have been experiencing at Bank of America Stadium? But also credit to the Panthers fans that did go to the game yesterday and weather out the storm. I'm glad they got to see that game-winning field goal and got to hear Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond for a second time this season.
Thank you for emphasizing by Neil Diamond. I think it's to me.
Is there
First
another
off, how
version?
often do you get to use that metaphor to weather the storm, and you actually mean to like actually weather a storm? Number
They
one.
actually did it. Yeah.
I I'm gonna go ahead and say though because one of the big stories you saw all of that game, right, was there are barely any fans here. Oh, tickets are selling for 45 cents. Blah 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 blah. Okay, there's a lot to be said about the state of the Carolina Panthers, what that means for fans, all of that stuff. But in my mind, it is such low hanging fruit. The take a picture at halftime or 5 minutes before I hate that so much. I hate it. It is such low hanging fruit. Like what do you expect? Do you think fans are just gonna be sitting out there at halftime, pouring the pouring rain? They're not gonna go like underneath the pavilion or something like that. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. You're going to need some warm liquids from the concourse to keep to keep you riled up, to keep the body temperature warm if you're going to be sitting out there in the cold and the rain. So yeah, I totally don't blame Panthers fans for wanting to go get a little bit of dry. Was there even a halftime show yesterday? I don't even know. I don't even think the
I don't
cheerleaders
think
did a
so.
routine. I don't think there was any on field. And I mean, granted, I wasn't at the game, but I didn't see anything on Fox, during the halftime stuff where, a live
There
look in
was
the
so much
stadium,
rain.
Sir Purr's doing a backflip off the scoreboard. I didn't see nothing like that.
No, sir. I did see Sir Purr in the rain jacket though. I'll
Yeah, that
say
was
this
funny.
one. I mean, and you're not. I don't think the way people watch the Carolina Panthers this year, it has to have adjusted at this point. It has to have changed. You're not looking, in my mind, like, okay, obviously you want them to win games, but I'm kind of at the point, and maybe it's because I can just kind of separate myself from it. But I'm at the point where I'm not. You're analyzing talent, you're analyzing youth, and you're trying to figure out how everything is fitting together, right? So if the Bryce Young and Jonathan Mingo have a couple of good connections and you see that connection starting to grow, to me, that's almost as valuable as, not a win, because that sounds like a loser mentality, but at the same time, it is more valuable in the long term than just picking up a win or two here. But you look at what Bryce Young was able to do in the pouring rain, didn't have the greatest throws here. Some of them kind of look like ducks, but he takes them down the field. They're able to set up that game-winning field goal. A QBR of 59.3, which would be his second highest QBR of the season so far. And QBR is not a perfect stat, but I do like how QBR kind of calculates in decision making and the different kind of situations there. So Bryce Young taking steps forward. That's kind of how I view it, right? The slowly growing the season. Plus, if you're a Panthers fan, right, the opportunity to take the Falcons and maybe throw off their entire season and bump them out of this NFC South division race, if you want to call it a race, I feel like that's a pro. That's a positive that you can take away.
Yeah, you get a chance to ruin the Falcons' season in a sense, and maybe make Arthur Smith question if he wants to shave his mustache after yesterday's performance. But I want to go back to kind of what you talked about with low hanging fruit and focus that on Bryce Young
Yeah.
specifically. And Tim Donnelly, show host of The Drive, which you can listen to from 3 to 6 p.m. on 999 The Fan, said this yesterday, or said this last week, excuse me. The bar has been set so low this season for Bryce Young that now at this point, he just has to go out there and do what Cam Newton's kind of put a bad name on with quarterbacks in the NFL, is be a game manager. All we're asking for Bryce Young is to not turn the ball over, score a couple of touchdowns, but just put these guys in positions to win by either rolling out and doing what he did yesterday, which was, oh my gosh, he threw the ball downfield. Who would have thought that he could do something like that? Or just saying, hey guys, I'm relying on our offensive, in the rain. Or hey guys, and in weather conditions like yesterday, we're going to run the ball. We're going to rely on our offensive line to just say we're better than the guys across from us. What did Bryce Young end up doing yesterday? 18 of 24 for 167 yards. Now, granted, he was only sacked 3 times, but keyword only sat 3 times. All right. There's been plenty of other times this season that number's been a lot high. And what did he do? Not turn the ball over. He did everything we asked him to do, just in a sense. Oh, and then by the way, on that game-winning drive, 5 for 5 for 68 yards and threw some beautiful haymakers downfield to set them up for that game-winning field goal by Eddie Pinheiro.
The bar is so low. You're absolutely right. The bar is so low. But that's okay. Because, I mean, now you look at it, right? So the Panthers have 3 games left this season. Christmas Eve against the Packers, at Jacksonville, who they're all over the place right now, and then home against the Bucs, right? So 3 games. Who knows if they win those, how many they win. And then I do think that one thing to kind of keep in mind, like I said, you want to be a little petty. And that means doing everything you can to upset Bears fans, do everything you can to upset NFC South teams. And so you look at it right now, right? At 2-12, if the Panthers can get one more win and move into a tie with the Patriots and the Cardinals with 3 wins for that number 1 pick, then you're starting to have some fun. They still win strength of schedule because they have the least difficult strength of schedule amongst those 3. Just try to end the season with a bang. Bryce Young, don't get hurt. Try not to develop any more bad habits from how the season has gone. I don't know. Just play petty. That's what I want from the Panthers.
If you're Bryce Young, put yourself in a situation to make fans say, maybe we were wrong about Bryce Young. Maybe he is the best quarterback out of this draft class. I mean, not after all. I mean, it's kind of unfair to say this, but CJ Stroud is injured. So it's not like we're getting to see a whole lot out of his production. Now, granted, when he was playing, he was killing it. But all of a sudden, with these 3 games left and coming off the performance you just had by setting up your second game winning drive, who knows? Yeah, make guys go out there and say, or make even Panthers fans kind of question themselves and saying, man, maybe we're giving Bryce Young too much heat early. Maybe, with just the right offensive line, with the right tools around him, he can be a successful quarterback in this league.
Yeah, just figure out who's going to be on this team moving forward. That's where I'm at with the Panthers. Figure out who's on this team, figure out who's going to be part of hopefully the future success that the team has. And wins or losses at this point, not much you can do about it. So just don't get hurt, don't develop bad habits, and analyze, figure out who's going to be on the team. Before we end things here, Graham, one thing I do want to mention, because it's just I think it needs to be said at this point. Eric Montross, UNC basketball great, Tar Heel sports analyst for 17 plus years, passed away on Sunday night. He was diagnosed with cancer back in March of 2023. UNC released an official statement and everything. So did want to slide that in here. I know it is obviously very emotional. It is a downer, doesn't give it enough credit, but it's a very sad and tragic day for UNC fans, for North Carolina basketball fans, I think in general. Thoughts and prayers go out to Montross and the entire Carolina athletics family. I know it's whenever you lose someone like that, it's incredibly hard. Someone who you never hear a bad word about privately, publicly, anything like that. Like Eric Montross, just every part of him is just is that guy, is a great member of sports within North Carolina. So it's really sad to see him, pass away from cancer at the age of 52. But I know go on X, go on whatever you want to, and look up all the stories that people are sharing. And I think you learn a lot about who Eric Montross is and was as a person.
And I'll just say, I just got done producing the Adam Gold Show this afternoon, which you can also listen to on the Fan from 12 to 3 p.m. We had UNC Associate Athletic Director for Communications, Steve Kirshner, on this afternoon to kind of just talk about the legacy that Montross bestowed upon North Carolina, kind of how he used it as a platform at a very early point in his career to bring awareness to people battling cancer. I think it's fair to say that we all know somebody who has either been affected by this disease, or maybe we've even lost somebody to this disease. But Steve just did a really good job of just kind of highlighting Eric Montross's career, not just for Carolina basketball, but just for the community of that university. It's on YouTube. It's a great conversation to check out. But yeah, very sad to hear the news of Eric Montross passing away, especially at the age of 52. And Adam even said he was just one of those guys that you would have thought was going to be able to beat this, and that's why it kind of, it hurts. It hurts people a lot knowing that he was not able to overcome this battle, but definitely left a good footstep and an impact that will be forever known within the Carolina basketball program and also the university as a whole.
Yeah, Eric Montross, amazing basketball player, analyst, personality, even better human being. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Graham, as we finish up here, I want to thank you for coming on and filling the Mark Bergen shaped hole in the show and in my heart. So thank you. Is there anything that you want to plug or anything you want to just kind of bring up here as we finish up? You mentioned the show, obviously. You mentioned what you can find on YouTube. Anything else?
Happy holidays. Be sure to follow me on X at Graham Hill 98 and just be listening to the fan. Starting, the leader for Triangle Sports here in Raleigh. As always, we start off with the Adam Gold Show from noon to 3 p.m., followed by the Drive with Tim Donnelly from 3 to 6. And every once in a while, you might catch a cameo from me. But if you're going to be tuned in for this week, you'll hear me for the rest of the week on the afternoon show with Tim Donnelly from 3 to 6.
Yeah, good people all around over there, that's for sure. Graham, thank you again so much. And thank you all for watching or listening to WRAL Triangle and Two. Catch us on the 999 Fan YouTube page, on WRAL Sports Fan, wherever you get your podcasts. We will not have a show next Monday because it is Christmas Day. To be determined what the schedule is going to look like next week and the week after that. But we'll be sure to get back to you when Mark Bergen comes in as well. So thank you all so much again for listening. So long. Take care. Happy holidays. We'll see you later.